everyone, it's Lana from Lana Under Pressure, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make authentic Instant Pot Ropa Vieja. Ropa Vieja in English means old clothes, and that's because when you shred the beef up and it's in the sauce, it looks like old tattered clothes. But I promise you that is not a description in any way of how it tastes. This dish is actually probably one of my top 3, if not my absolute favorite Cuban dish. And anytime I would go into a restaurant, this is the dish that I would order. Let's start off with the meat. Ropa Vieja is traditionally made with flank steak, and here I have a 2-pound flank steak that I have gotten. Now, if you can't find flank steak, you can use a brisket or you can use a chuck roast. Either way is up to you. If you use a chuck roast, you do want to make sure though that you cut it in half longwise because you want it to be as thin as possible. The first step is we're going to sear our meat. And now we're not going to cook it, we're just going to brown it on the outside really quickly, about 3 minutes. And the way you're going to do that in the Instant Pot is you're going to set your Instant Pot to saute. So you would just press the saute button, and on this one I press start, and we're going to let it heat up. And once it comes to temperature, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then we're going to sear our beef. Anytime you sear beef or chicken, you do want to make sure that you go ahead and salt it to add some more flavor into the pot. So I'm going to take about a teaspoon of kosher salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle this liberally on both sides before we go ahead and sear it. I'm using, in this recipe today, I'm using my 8-quart Instant Pot, so I can actually saute this entire flank steak in one piece. But if you're using a smaller Instant Pot or electric pressure cooker, feel free to cut it in half and go ahead and sear each side separately. Now that it's hot, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, or you can use vegetable oil. Once the olive oil is hot, we're ready to sear the steak. And now we're only going to do this for about 3 minutes, just to get some brown color. I've removed my steak and I've turned off the saute function, and now I'm going to saute the vegetables. And what I have here is I have 1 thinly sliced yellow onion, and I have half of a green bell pepper sliced thin and half of a red bell pepper sliced thin. And I'm going to go ahead and add that now to my Instant Pot. So I'm going to press saute again, and this time I'm going to adjust it to low and hit start. And we already have oil and the brown bits and the grease, so we don't need to add any extra oil. So I'm going to add the onions and the peppers, and I'm going to stir. Now, as these vegetables release some of their moisture, it's going to start bringing up the brown bits that are on the bottom of the pot. And it's really important to make sure that you use a wooden spatula or a wooden spoon to scrape those up. And a tip for that is you can add a little bit of water to the pot to help you do that. So we want to deglaze the bottom of the pot. Our vegetables have been sauteing for about 6 minutes, and they're starting to get translucent and a little bit brown. This is the time I'm going to add garlic, and I have here 3 to 4 cloves of minced garlic. I'm going to add that to the pot. I'm going to go ahead and stir. I've stirred in the garlic. And you're just going to let it stir and saute for 30 seconds and then turn off the saute function. I hit cancel. And we're going to let our vegetables sit while we get the liquid ready. Now we're going to make the braising liquid that we're going to cook the steaks in, that will eventually also become the sauce. So it makes it really easy and very quick to put together. And one tip that I'd like to share with you is I like to put and whisk all of the ingredients together in the bowl and then add that into the Instant Pot instead of adding each ingredient separately. That way, you're making sure that you're combining all of the ingredients really well. And especially if you're going to be using tomato-based products like we will, that helps to dissolve them and help you not get the burn notice. So in this bowl, I have 3/4 cup of water. And to that, I'm going to add a 1/3 cup of white wine. And you can use cooking white wine. I use the cooking white wine from Goya, but you can use whatever white wine. I don't drink it, so I don't have white wine at home, but whatever you have, you can go ahead and use that. So that's a 1/3 cup of white wine. To that, I'm going to add a 1/2 tablespoon of onion powder, a 1/2 tablespoon of garlic powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. And in here I have 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of black ground pepper. And we'll whisk it together. And to our liquid, we're going to add 2 heaping tablespoons of tomato paste. Whenever you're cooking, especially with tomato paste in the Instant Pot, that can give you the burn notice. So I like to make sure that you whisk that tomato paste into the liquid really well. We have our liquid ready, so we're going to add that straight to the Instant Pot and all of our vegetables that are in there. And make sure you scrape down the bowl so that you get all of those spices. Now we're not quite done. To that liquid, we're going to add 1 jar of diced pimentos. Now, if you have the sliced ones or the whole ones, that's fine. You can either dice them up, or if you have the whole pimentos, you can slice those or just use them as they are. And you're going to make sure that you add the liquid as well. You want all of that flavor. And make sure you scrape down the sides and also scrape the bottom again, just to make sure there's nothing burned to the bottom. That'll help you not get the burn notice. Now, before we add our last 2 ingredients, you want to, at this point, add the steak, whatever steak, beef you're using, into the Instant Pot. And we're going to sit that right on top of our liquid. And make sure any juices that have collected in the plate, you add that. You don't want to waste any of that flavor. Our last 2 ingredients is 1 can of diced tomatoes and 2 bay leaves. Now the important part of this, and this is a little tip, is whenever you're cooking with diced tomatoes, again, like I've said before and in my previous videos, tomatoes tend to cause burn notices. So a good tip is to add the diced tomatoes right on top of the beef so that they're not sitting inside the Instant Pot and they won't cause it to burn. So we're going to pour this entire can right on top of the beef. And you could spread it around a little bit. But as the sauce cooks and the beef cooks, those tomatoes will start mixing in with the sauce. But this way you don't get the burn notice. And to that, we're also going to add our last ingredient, which is 2 bay leaves. And you sit those right on top as well. Now we're ready to cook. Once all our ingredients are added, I've gone ahead and put the lid on. I made sure that it is set to the sealed position. Our vent is set to the sealed position. And I'm going to cook this on high pressure for 45 minutes. So I'm going to press pressure cook button. Now this is my Duo Evo Plus and it has different modes. And for this one, I'm going to press custom. And that allows me to set the time to 45 minutes. And press start. Now, one of the great things about this recipe is you can actually cook these steaks from frozen. So if you have a frozen brisket or a frozen flank steak, you can cook it from frozen. You'd still go ahead and saute each side, and you would just add, if you're going to do it from frozen, you would just add an extra 15 minutes. Once our Instant Pot has done pressure cooking and the 45 minutes has elapsed, we're going to allow it to natural pressure release, which means leave it alone for 25 minutes. There's just a few more steps left. What we need to do now is go ahead and remove the bay leaves, and because we put them on top, they should be just easy to remove. Now, it's going to be really tender once we removed it, and you're just going to put it right into a bowl, and we're going to go ahead and shred it. Now, a good tip is to thicken the liquid if you'd like it to be a little thicker, and while you're shredding the beef, Just press the saute and allow the liquid to saute, and some of that will evaporate out and thicken it just a little bit more. While our liquid is reducing, let's shred the beef. And because we've used the Instant Pot to pressure cook this, it is really tender, so it's easy to shred. And I like to just use 2 forks, but if you have one of those shredder tools, you can use that. You can use a knife if you want to cut it, but honestly, I found that just 2 forks works best. And all you have to do is start at one end, and you're gonna hold the meat down with 1 fork and just pull it apart, and it comes apart super easy. Our liquid has reduced a little, we've shredded our meat, and now we're ready to add it back to the pot. And so you can see now, looking at it, why they call it old clothes, or Ropa Vieja. Add the beef right back into the liquid, and you want anything that's left in that bowl. And stir it around. And now as it sits, it's going to thicken a little bit. And you want to taste it, make sure that it has enough salt, but it's ready to eat. And what I love about this recipe is that it takes an economical, cheap cut of beef and makes it tender and flavorful with just a few ingredients. And it's even better the next day. So those leftovers, the next day the sauce will thicken and the flavors will meld. It's fantastic. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye!